This is Fanta's Forum, the debut on the field of 68. Good evening, everybody. I'm Judge Fanta, and tonight, Counselors Gottlieb and Childress will bring forward their best four teams in college basketball at the moment. You in the YouTube chat, I will be reading the chat as we're doing this to see what you, the jury, believes, and then I will make a final ruling against these counselors to see who comes out on top in the first edition of Fanta's Forum. You'll each be able to present an opening argument. You'll then be able to counter the other. We have 10 minutes. Randolph Childress, Counselor Childress, please present.
I got Arizona. I think that'll be. I think we'll be consistent there. I think Arizona is showing that we'll get a bigger test here coming up with these guys. They get Purdue. That'll be a major matchup. They got Wisconsin before that, and then they covered Alabama following after Purdue game. I think they've been super impressive early. Went on the road, got the win at Duke, beat Michigan State. They'll play more high major teams as I just discussed, but I think there's no question coming in this week they're number one. Number two, I got Kansas, Kentucky, Tennessee, UConn. I don't think you can debate much with those guys. Purdue, we saw them again dominant. I think they rebounded from the Northwestern loss. Where we may differ, I think we'll have those three teams. Where we'll differ will be the fourth team, and I have Marquette. And the reason I say Marquette is I don't think anyone in the country has played the schedule that Marquette has. I think by far, when we talk about most teams trying to pick and choose one or two teams that they played, this Marquette resume has been impressive with Illinois, UCLA, Kansas, Purdue, and they've lost a couple. Don't get me wrong, but Wisconsin, and then they got Texas coming up on Wednesday. Um, they want all smoke, and I don't think anybody has played the schedule that they played and come out on top with the victories they have. So I'm impressed with Marquette's scheduling this early in the year and think they belong in that conversation.
Okay, so before I go to Counselor Gottlieb, again, Counselor Childress, you have Purdue, Marquette,
Arizona,
Arizona,
Kansas,
and Kansas.
and
Counselor
Kansas.
Gottlieb, you're up.
I have those three as well. I do. And I have,
Great
and I
minds
have,
think alike.
and I think you confused Fanta because you mentioned Tennessee, kind of in passing, whatever. Like, I think there's a big chunk of teams that are in that next group, right? Like I think Duke's going to kind of figure it out here. They've played an impressive schedule. Like you mentioned, Carolina, I think I would put kind of on that list as
Yeah.
well. We'll see about Baylor, as we've only really seen them against Auburn, just kind of little snippets or whatever. Houston, who I know you love, John, a great deal. Like we saw him hold off Xavier. It was a little troubling that, again, they went through that drought where they stopped scoring, but well coached, great defensively, sheds a big time point guard. I'm not sure. I'm going to be interested to see how they match up with Hunter Dickinson when they play a true big. So my fourth, though, I'm going to go Colorado State. Okay. Now stick with me. I understand that their roster may not overwhelm you. Okay. But Isaiah Stevens is as good as any guard in college basketball. He may
Yes, he
not
is.
be first round draft pick, but he's a stud, really bright kid as well. They can stretch you out. They can slow you down. What they did, they dismembered Creighton. And I'm telling you, Creighton's kind of a machine, and they dismembered them. They play very smart analytics basketball. And then I like Colorado as probably the second best team in the Pac-12, and they beat their tails. Now, granted, that was in Moby. So they haven't had the level, the depth of the competition in Marquette. And I think Marquette's ceiling probably higher. But I'm going to go Colorado because the text that I got was, what are the best four teams right now? And UConn, Kansas felt like a national semifinal. That was a great basketball game. Really, really good. And Marquette, Kansas felt that way too, to be totally honest, like super high level game. I can't deny Arizona be my number one team based on how they're playing, but I put Colorado State based on merit, how they played, volume of shot makers, style of play, and they have a five that can stretch you out and they can guard your five inside. I'll throw Colorado State there as my fourth.
It's time for counter arguments now. Now, I did notice. I did notice
I
that
think
Counselor.
all those teams. I think all those teams he named and we're going to find out. Like you said, Carolina could be right there. They're playing really well. UConn could be right there. I mean, there's so many other teams. Houston deserves right there. I just think from the only reason why the biggest difference in the team and why I said Marquette is just because they're scheduled. Like, I don't think any of these teams that we're considering
Well,
has
and
played the
hold on
schedule
now.
that Marquette plays.
You got a guy. You also got a guy who can really coach. They can speed you up, which a lot of teams can't. They not a lot of teams play the way that they play in terms of forcing tempo at times. And they got a tremendous point guard, good culture, good leadership. It's not just their schedule, right? Like that's kind of underselling them a little bit, Randolph. Like
No, 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 no,
they're
no. I'm
really
only
good.
saying for right now. They're damn good. I mean, they're well coached, best point guard in the country. I'm just speaking of when you're talking about the best teams right now, because some people may say, "Oh, there's a two-loss team," and you're going to look at them and be like, "Oh, they're a two-loss team. They're not the best right now." Well, they've taken on everybody, and they're a hell of a team. I just think that they belong in that conversation right now, and they've dropped it a little bit, but they still be top 10. I'm not worried about them. They're right there. They'll be right there. I'm just been overly impressed with their resume to this point,
Well, the
considering
other
they
thing
play
about
in the
Colorado
Big
State,
East.
right? The other thing about Colorado State, okay. Now remember, they beat Washington at Washington, and Washington's not great, but they're much better than they've been. And you win in Heckhead, that's a heck of a win. They're old, man. Josiah Strong, who's I think he's 24, right? You got Joel Scott, he's a senior. Isaiah Stevens is a senior. Like they throw old men out there. They take Geritol at halftime. They're really really good. So I just again like if you want to look for markers on teams that are going to make a run, like here's some markers on them. And last year it was San Diego State. I just think San Diego State's just okay this year. I think this year that team out of the Mountain West is Colorado State. I'm not saying anything people don't know, but I think this dog will hunt. I think they're going to be around in that top 10, 12 most of the year. They're that good. 2 years ago when they were really good with David Roddy, they kind of fell off there in the middle of the year, and then they got it back going. This team has depth and age. But my only counter to the Marquette thing would be, it felt like no matter what they did against Kansas, they weren't at that level. That would be, they were just a notch below. And it's hard to, Kansas has a very good
Meaning,
point guard as well, so he wasn't as rattled. But I
wait, meaning,
honestly, John, I'm
meaning
struggling to
Purdue?
find a super big counter argument to Marquette because I think they're fantastic.
Well, you mean Purdue? Marquette against Purdue, or because Marquette beat Kansas?
That's what I mean. I'm sorry, I'm my brain fog here late at night. So I mean, again, but like it's the same thing on repeat, though, right? Can you stop a traditional big? But then the question becomes for Purdue, can they guard out on the perimeter? Neither of us, by the way, Randolph, we just said they're going to the Final Four in the first segment.
Right.
Neither of us put Purdue as one of the top four teams.
No, no, no. We just did.
You
I
both
just
did.
did. I had
We did?
Arizona, Kansas, Purdue, and Marquette.
I thought you did.
Oh, I
Who
had
was
UConn.
your?
And you said
I
my
had
three.
UConn.
You said the same three. Who'd you have?
I got confused by your three. I haven't been drinking, and I feel like I have. UConn would be my other one. I just
Okay.
and maybe
So
maybe
who'd you take
look
off? You
without
took off Purdue?
yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
Order in the forum. I'm going to go back
I'm
into my
terrible at
chambers.
this game.
I'm going to go back into my chambers because you have just changed your argument at the last moment.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
YouTube chat will debate here over the next 2 minutes, and after this
We'll come
brief
back.
intermission, we will read a final ruling to see. So Randolph has Arizona, Kansas, Purdue, Marquette. Douglas Gottlieb, Counselor Gottlieb presents Arizona, Kansas, UConn, and Colorado State.